What's going on, everybody? Eric Swanny here from Swan Hockey, back with another episode of Swan Hockey Live. This week, we are joined by Craig Doremus, the general manager and head coach of the New Jersey Titans in the North American Hockey League. Craig, thanks a ton for doing this. What's going on?
Nothing much, man. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of great stuff tonight. Before we get to anything, we got somebody else very special with Craig. We're going to bring him in on now. Craig, who you got?
I got my my youngest son here, Bowden. He's a YouTube fanatic and always wants to be on YouTube because that's all he does. So he wanted to come on the show quick and say hi.
Yeah.
What's going on, Bowden? How are you?
Good.
What's your YouTube channel going to be about?
I don't know.
No? What else do you like besides YouTube?
I like playing games and like riding my bike around the block.
And you have trains, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Trains. I heard about the trains.
Big train fan here. Big train
Yes.
fan. So he wanted to jump on and say hello to everyone.
Mhm.
All right. You say thanks to Eric.
Yeah. Thanks to Eric.
Thanks
See
for
you
coming
later.
on, Bowden.
Later.
Hope to see you at a game this year.
Yes, I go Titans.
Yeah. Go Titans.
Love it.
A little bit. See, hi, Bowden.
We got Caleb Carlin says hi, Bowden.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, Caleb's going to be playing for playing in the U18 program there at the Titans.
Awesome. Hopefully he'll see Bowden around.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, guys, awesome. Thanks for joining us this evening. If you're new here, welcome. This is completely interactive. We want to hear from you. Ask your questions, throw up your comments, join the conversation. If you're watching from Instagram, we will not get your comments. If you want to interact with the show, head over to the YouTube channel. You can also communicate and interact through the live podcast channel, the Swan Hockey Discord server. Lots of cool, exciting things in the works. As you just saw from the intro, we are gonna we're gonna have a VIP experience for this for Ether Skate owners, part of the Web3 experience. We did a whole show on that last week. If you want to learn more about that, check out that show, and you could also check out swanhockey.com. We have a whole lot of FAQ and how-to on the whole Web3, and there's going to be more coming, with the how-to and FAQ. But yeah, let's get into this. I'm very happy that Craig is joining us. Craig's been involved in in this game at high levels for a long time. Very well respected, very accomplished coach, and I think this is going to be a real good one for a lot of you guys to learn and to understand how things work, what coaches are looking for, and even for anybody out there that's looking to be on the coaching side of things or scouting side of things or the business side of hockey. I know Craig has a ton to offer there, so I'm very excited about this episode. Craig, how's the summer been?
Good. It's you always think it's so far away this season, and you try to enjoy the off season as much as you can, especially like you saw. I got 2 boys and my wife, and we try to enjoy that. And she's a teacher, so it's nice to have some of the time off together. But yeah, it's so busy, right? Like it's got to be almost year round in terms of one season ends, your preparation for the next season is well underway at that point. You go to your draft, go through that process. Prior to that, you have your tenders. Then you're preparing for main camp. And then after main camp, it gets more into like the real preparation for the year. What are you going to do in training camp? Rosters, billets, road trips, everything. Like everything just starts going quick. And that's how it's been for us. It's kind of been nonstop. I hope the staff was able to collect themselves and enjoy a little free time and kind of take a deep breath. But here we are, right? Like our players report on Sunday and we'll have a quick team meeting, and then guys will get into their billet homes and whatnot. And then on Monday, we hit the ground running, and we have an exciting training camp coming up and on and off ice activities. And then we start the preseason on August 31st right away. So it'll come quick, and we're really excited and eager to get underway with it, right? The hockey's the fun part. So here we go.
Yeah, for sure. It's like all the work comes in and everything. And, obviously North American Hockey League, it's a, goal, I would say, for majority of the players out there to, play in the league one day. Lots of guys trying to play in the league, and, lots of guys coming through the league and going on to higher levels and, college hockey onto pro. And, so I kind of want to start, I guess, from the beginning of where we're at this summer, go into the future, and then go into the present, and then kind of look ahead. Like, so in terms of, building the team and everything, and with it being most players, their goal is to play in this league one day. What do you think is the biggest thing for players like when they're making their journey? Like, what's the biggest thing that from being somebody, being a decision maker on the inside, what's like one of the biggest things that these guys have to know, and something that they might not learn from going to a camp, or something that nobody might ever tell them, right? Like, what's like one of the biggest things that you would say, like, hey, this is what you have to have this if you're going to play in the North American Hockey League?
I think you have to have hard skill in terms of like an attribute on the ice. Like, I don't think you could have either or and just make it on that. I think you need a high level of both. And I think that gives you a chance. It still may not be enough. It may get you on to start a team, and then, maybe you're left by the wayside after a month or so. Like, but even when I look back at some of the most impactful players that we've had, they have hard skill. That's what their staple is. Now, don't get me wrong. We've had the exceptional kids from the skill level where, these guys, they didn't finish all their hits and they didn't necessarily block a ton of shots, but you put the rock on their stick and they were able to do things and make magic happen on the ice and make everybody around them more lethal. But even the other guys towards the more bottom of the depth chart guys, like, they're hard to play against. They're mean, they're nasty, they finish hits, they work, they compete. I think that's probably the other word, like just your competitive nature, right? You have to be competitive. The league is so honest and so hard and so heavy. If you're not competitive, you're going to get chewed up and spit out. In New Jersey, like, other programs run differently. And I just think for us, that's kind of a basis that we need to see there, because you're not always going to have your best day with the puck on your stick. You're not, you may play unbelievable and have 6 shots on net and the goalie's just really good that day and you don't score, but it's having those other elements to your game that are going to make you a valuable part of a winning environment and lineup. And I think the other thing that's probably unspoken about, and for me, it's big. I'm not the easiest guy to play for. I have high standards. I have high expectations. I've been blessed enough to be around the game at high levels. Maturity. You have to be mature, right? And that's knowing that not every day is going to be your best day. That's knowing that you have to find ways to contribute to a lineup, regardless of your point production. That means being an elite teammate, regardless of what it means for you. The kind of the we over me attitude. And you got to be able to handle the ebbs and flows and the length of the season. It's a long, hard year, and some days are going to be better than others, and some days are going to be a lot worse than others. So I think it's being able to manage that. And I think the maturity part of it, especially nowadays, and I don't want to sound like an old folk, but kids nowadays, not a ton of them have a ton of maturity in them, and who they are. Never mind as a hockey player, just as a person, right? And that's something that's growing harder and harder to find and identify. But I think the kids who have had a lot of success with us and we've maintained relationships well beyond the years in New Jersey, I think are the kids who are mature and have, continued to mature during their time period with us, whether it's a year or 2 or 3.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's one thing. And, one thing I've told players a lot too, and I think it kind of, goes hand in hand with it. And, maybe there's another way to, describe, what I've said, but, like I tell people too, like if you want to play at these super high levels, like, North American Hockey League, USHL, stuff like that. Like you have to remember that, you're not a paying customer anymore. Right. So the team's expecting something of you and it's not money. Right. They're
Correct.
expecting your compete. They're expecting your best effort every day. They're expecting you to handle yourself like a professional, mentally, physically, to prepare for games, warm up properly for practice, cool down for practice, get your body at the best that it could possibly be, all that kind of stuff. And, not that it's, it's obviously, it's not professional hockey. So it's, not that it's a job yet, but it's bridging that gap, it's bridging that gap between the youth world and the pro world or the college world where everybody's hoping to get a scholarship and to be, now in some form, receiving, financial benefit from their ability to play the game. They're expecting your ability to be there, they're expecting something of you, and it's not.
Yeah,
money.
I think that the part that, I'm around the game and you get to talk to parents and agents and players, and, you hear the positive, you hear the negative, you hear the grumblings, you hear the praises. I think what gets lost in translation, a lot of people forget, is how much money the owners put into this product at this level, USHL, North American League. To operate your team, it's $1 million investment every year by your ownership group.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think people realize that. Like, it's $1 million investment between your travel, your equipment, your staff. Like, and listen, our players are treated really well in New Jersey. They're spoiled. They're taken care of. We tell the players right away, like, our ownership group and us as coaches, we're going to invest in you, right? Big time, time, money, blood, sweat, and tears, and everything that comes along with it. We expect a professional investment from the player. And it's like what you said, we're not asking them to carry the burden financially that they have to carry it at the minor and youth hockey league levels, or even other leagues in junior hockey. What we do expect them to do is to really give a shit and buy in, right? And that buy-in isn't just about like, oh, rah, or I'm going to go fight somebody. No, we expect you to sleep. We expect you to wake up and prepare the proper way, have a good mindset, be lifting, be training, do your recovery work, do your video work, do your extra work. Like, we don't want guys who are coming into New Jersey and they're just doing the bare minimum, but they expect these dramatic returns in terms of a playing time or a scholarship offer. Like,
right.
I'm big on it. I'm probably the biggest proponent of my staff. We go above and beyond. Our equipment managers, our trainers. Like, I want our players treated to the best of our ability. I always say to everyone, like, when I was lucky enough to work for the New York Rangers coming out of college, like, I was a lifelong Ranger fan, but what I really took from there as a student of the game at that point was how well our players were treated. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, when I was there, we never made the playoffs. It was a weird time. We had a very talented roster in New York. Just couldn't win, right? Couldn't make the playoffs. But our GM, Glenn Sather, then was able to attract so many different free agents, great free agents and great players, because of how our players were treated and paid, obviously, in New York. When I came to New Jersey, I wanted the same treatment for our guys. I wanted a high level, a high standard. of expectations from our staff, our facility, everything. Treat them like pros, and now we can ask them for the same in return. And I think that's where we've gotten to, and I think, it's never perfect, right? We only won the cup once, but it's not like we're setting the standard here. But I think what we've tried to do is remain excellent in our pursuit of that standard every year. And I think we've had a lot of success, winning. Yeah, we've been in the playoffs every year. Yeah. But I think when you see the players that have moved on in college hockey and the success they've had there, and I think most importantly for me, what I always talk about is the type of men that they've become after they moved on. One of our former players just got engaged the other night, and I couldn't be more proud of the kid. I love him. He wrote a letter for us. He just got finished with his Division III career last year. He'll play some minor pro next year. That's but awesome. This kid's an elite human being. Like, I sit here as a father, and I always say my biggest compliment to the boys is, if my children could grow up to be half the man as these boys, then I've done a really good job as a father. Like, that's what I'm more proud of. And I think a lot of that is because of the culture and the standards and the expectations we have of our Titan athletes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And anybody that's been around, one of, whether it was a game or camp, like, I think, you could see it, like the game day productions, always been awesome. Like, the camps have gone well. Like, I mean, you guys, I was only at camp for a short time this year, but like, you guys were doing the whole, game production and everything for the camp this year and everything. And
yep.
Yeah, no, I've been inside the, locker room and whatnot. Like, it's awesome, and I think people need to remember that, like you said, it's $1 million investment. Like, it's people are spending a lot of money.
It's real money. There's no doubt about it. It's real money. Like, the Bauer sticks don't just show up, and the equipment doesn't just show up. And, our players, even the way we travel, like, our buses are always brand new Mercedes-Benz. Like, that stuff doesn't just happen. That's a real investment here by people taking money out of their pockets to pay those bills.
Yeah. I mean, look, everyone should be able to see it, right? Like, you look at some of the, if you look at tier 3 hockey, $10,000-$15,000 to play, right? Tier 2 is even more expensive because there's sticks, there's, more travel, more hotels, more meals, more everything. Like, it's, probably talking, it's, a lot, at least.
And our program, our program, you look at, like, our players have Normatex, like, guys in college don't have an ice bath, go above and beyond. Our players have iPads on the bench.
Yeah.
They get off the ice and they view their shifts. Like,
yeah,
that's all stuff. Again, it's National Hockey League style. We want to prepare our guys, right? Like, we want to prepare them for when they get to Division I hockey. So it's not, oh my God, wow, this is crazy. No, this is the standard. This is what we did in New Jersey. Maybe things are a little bit different here. Everyone's maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit faster, but we're not going to be overwhelmed by the atmosphere of the environment or the expectations, right? Like, my hope is actually that when they get there, they're like, yeah, this is all right. Like, playing in New Jersey was harder than this. Like, this is good. I could come dominate right away. I could be an active part of the roster right away.
Prepared. Yeah, that they're prepared. Like,
that's the hope.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, now let's, kind of move ahead, like, into, the present. So, kid works his ass off, makes it, makes the roster. What would be the best advice that you would have for a kid, whether it's in New Jersey or anywhere, of, okay, you made a North American Hockey League roster. Now you got to stick.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what's the, like, what's the one thing you would tell someone, like, hey, this is what you need to know. This is what you don't know in order to now stick in the league. Right.
Yeah.
Making the roster and now sticking in the league and truly becoming a player.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's probably a little bit more complex than just a single thing, but what I would say to kids is, like, find out what your team identity is, right? Like, what is your staff looking for? How do you want to play? What are their core values and principles, right? You want to really identify what those are going to be and what's valuable to your roster and your team and your dressing room, right? Be an elite teammate on and off the ice. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yep. All good.
I froze on my end. Sorry. Be an elite teammate off the ice. I think it's kind of funny, but I would say learn math, right? Count quick. There's only going to be 24 guys on the roster, right, after the deadline. So start counting numbers, see who you got to beat out, how many guys you got to beat out. And I think a big part of that is be consistent. It's not always about your best day. It's about what are you going to bring every day, right? And obviously, if that consistency can be high level, then you probably got a better chance. But it's not so much like, hey, that one game I had 3 goals. Why did I get cut? Like, that's fine. You had 3 goals in the last 40 days. That makes it look a lot different, right? So, like, right. I think remaining consistent at your role. And that's the other big thing is, I think, role identification, right? Like, everyone, and I look at, I'm looking at our roster as we go into this year, like every forward on our team probably at some point in the recent future has been the top guy in their team, right? Like they're incredible, incredible athletes, and they all have skill and they do this, right? Then you get here and your game's got to evolve, right? You got to figure out, how do I stick? What do I got to do? I would say, like, identify your role, right? Find out what it's going to take to be there. Embrace it. You got to like it. You got to want it, right? You got to own it. And then you got to dominate that role. Be elite at it, right? And I tell these guys, you look around the NHL, there's so many guys who do that at that level and allows them to make millions of dollars, maybe because they're really elite in the dot. They're really good on the PK. You look at a guy like Ryan Reeves. He's not there because he's skilled, right? These guys find what their role is going to be. They embrace it, and then they dominate. They do it better than most at their level, at their age group, and they get paid millions to do it. So I think our guys, they're not getting paid millions, but that's your opportunity and how you stick in the league where it's highly competitive. And again, the performance-based industry is something that's just not touch-based enough on, right? It is a performance-based industry. The players want to stay there. They want to get committed to Division I. They want to win a Robertson Cup. I'll tell you what, as coaches, we don't sign up to lose every day. We want to win, right? For me, and I'll speak just candidly here, like, it's what I get paid to do. It puts a mortgage, pays my mortgage, puts a roof over my head, pays my 2 children, my wife, allows me to support my family. So we're not doing too well and players aren't performing and developing and we're not winning hockey games. Well, guess what? I'm going to be looking for a job soon. So it's performance-based across the board. And obviously, I think it's felt differently from coaching staffs to players, a little bit different, but it's really not when you talk about it. Like, their futures are on the line and they're fighting for that. And I think as coaches, we're fighting for our futures and it's on the line too. Whether it's currently getting a paycheck week to week or whether it's you want to pursue an option at a higher level of hockey.
Yeah, 100%. I can't say it better. I mean, and before we get too far ahead here, Logan Rinkowski says great treatment confirmed. That came up back when we were talking about how guys are treated in New Jersey. And
yeah, I think Logan is probably one of the guys who would be able to speak to it best. I think he comes from a unique background. He's played minor hockey in different programs, played with me back in with the Gulls in Long Island many moons ago, and obviously extremely talented kid, committed to Harvard for a reason. And then, he's been in the United States Hockey League and then obviously joined us in Jersey last year early on. And he's been able to see, different levels and different stops. And he's one of the guys who, I trust his opinion. And I think he would speak very highly about what the difference is in New Jersey versus other programs in our league and other programs in other leagues. And I don't really want to make it about that, but I think Logan is a testament and could speak very glowingly about the differences between us and everyone else.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Just got to hit the net. He's got to hit the net this year. Hit the net, Logan.
Yeah, and going back to like what you were saying about performance-based industry, like I mean, been saying it for years. Like I've been saying performance is king. Like perform, it'll makes most of the problems go away. And like if you just like I like to put it in its simplest form, I always tell people like, hey, you want to give yourself the best chance at moving up to the next level. Prove to a coach you could help him win games. Like
100%
in its simplest form. Prove to him that you could help him win games.
That's it. And like, I'm not gonna like, you get your point per game, guys. I'll look at like a Dom Bartechko. Dom led us in scoring last year. He's a great hockey player. He's going to do really special things at Mercyhurst. And but like you said, like that, Dom didn't win every battle. Dom didn't win every check. Like there's things he did that drove me nuts, and I want him to be better and more consistent at it. But at the end of the day, too, like he also had 80+ points, in a 60-game season, and he drove the bus for us offensively. And I tell everyone, at the end of the year, I thought he was the best guy in the league, and I don't think it was remotely close. I mean, it was really comfortable as a coach, and I had to miss a lot of time late in the year due to some family stuff. But watching my team on the TV, and then obviously joining them behind the bench again in the playoffs. It was comforting to know that you had the best guy on the ice who was sitting on your bench, and to have that weapon to throw out on the ice every time it's a pretty special feeling. And that's, when you just mentioned Logan and our group this year, like there's gonna be a lot of times we get off the bus and I'm going to like our chances.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, and that's what, that's what I try to stress to everybody is just, the performance aspect of it and, performing and, we, kind of touched on a couple different things here, but the first one I want to dive a little deeper into just, because I know that a lot of people, especially I feel like at the youth level that are coming up, they get confused as to, okay, are points everything? Are points not everything? What does performance mean? And you know, and again, like what I always tell people is like no, like points aren't everything. Of course not. Like what I always tell people is perform great details. Like if your details are great, it's almost impossible to play a bad game. Right? Like if you're, you know, if you know, great vision, great passing, great shots on net, great back checking, great hockey IQ, great communication with your teammates. If all that stuff is great, if all that's true, how could the end result be bad? It's almost impossible.
I
Right?
don't just, you know, it's funny that you bring this up because it's something I've grown more and more passionate about. This will probably be off candor and an unpopular belief, but that's okay. That's why I'm me. Um, I think the biggest problem right now is I do think at the college level, at least what I'm battling is too many college coaches, too many college programs don't build teams. They just collect talent, right? And now you get a kid who's played top six in a respectable junior hockey league's been on the power play point producing guy. Now he gets to your college, and I don't want to get specifics about what schools, but he gets to your campus, and now you expect that player to go from that to playing on the fourth line where he's got to concentrate on winning lines, not turning over pucks, getting pucks behind D for like I think, and you know, and you see it at the NHL level, and I wish more people would use that as the example. You build a roster, right? Like I'm not saying it's got to be old school where your fourth line fights and grinds. No, but you got to build whatever your identity is as a coach and a program, right? You got to put the players, you got to find and identify and solicit, recruit specific people to fill specific roles. I think where you see so many kids struggle is because they're asked to transform that later in their playing life, right? When quite frankly, they don't know how to. They've never been asked to do these things before. That's why with us, like so much of what I teach, especially early on with our guys, is just becoming a complete player, 200-foot player, reliable in your own zone, you know, good defensive responsibilities, communication, like you mentioned. I try to teach the whole thing because I think the offensive part of the game is what's easy. Right. At the end of the day, they're all pretty skilled. They can make plays. We work on stuff while they're here and try to fine tune either a skill set or vision or different mechanics within their skating, strides, whatever it may be. A lot of video work where you can work on deception and misinformation. Yeah. I think all that stuff could come afterwards. I like to make them a 200-foot player first that allows them to stay in lineup, contribute, be part of a winning team. I think far too often people ignore winning. And I think that's important for colleges. They want winners, right? Because at that level, it's the same thing. It's performance-based. And I just think at the college level, I get so frustrated at times because, and listen, I've been fortunate enough. We won a cup 2 years ago. And like we had kids on who played in our quote unquote fourth line who all great kids, unbelievable human beings. A couple of them ended up playing D3 hockey. And I'm telling you right now, they're Division I hockey players every day of the week. They just didn't get that opportunity because they weren't the flashiest guys who put up the most points. But these are kids who arrived violently on every battle, won a ton of battles, created time and space for their teammates everywhere, blocked shots. They were on the ice when we were up 2-1, more so than our first line guys were at times. They killed penalties. Like these kids, we don't win a cup without them. We don't, right? And now yet they don't get to see that through at the Division I level because they had 19 points in 60 games. You know what I mean? Like I just think that to me is something that I don't know how to correct it. I don't coach Division I college hockey, so I can't tell these guys how to do their jobs. But I can just tell you in Jersey, I think a big part of us turning the tide, like we've been fortunate, like our first few years in Jersey, we came in and we changed the forecast of the league. I think we led the league in scoring. We were putting up double-digit goals. It was never happening. Like we just ran 4 first lines out there and we skated you to death. And if you gave us an odd man rush, it was going to the back of the net. And I joked to my goalies back then all the time. I said, hey, your responsibility is just to save more than that guy does, and we'll be okay. Like it may be 7-6, but we'll be okay. Where we've turned the tide, and I think it started with some really honest conversations amongst the staff and I. All right, what we're doing here is good and it's fun, and we're winning some games. We're putting a ton of kids in school, but ultimately we're not winning the championship, and that's got to be our next step. And I think, you know, going into that 2 years before that, when the COVID season, I think from that team moving forward, we've done a much better job of identifying specific pieces who we felt could play different roles on our team. And listen, there's some guys who are a little bit more versatile and they can go up and down your lineup and add some different elements. I look at that COVID team out, you know, our quote unquote fourth line. Chris Garvey played on our fourth line. He had 22 tucks that year. It was a little bit different, but then I looked at that cup team and we had a blueprint and we stuck to that blueprint. And it led to some really hard conversations and tough decisions from a staffing standpoint. But at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, right? You have a couple over your head late in the season, which is the ultimate goal. I wish at the college level, excuse me, I wish there would be more of that. But when I do watch a team like Denver and some of the heavier teams play, I think they do that. I think they plan to win games in the postseason when the ice is a little bit tighter. There's not as much space. I think those teams plan for that. I think that's why traditionally there's some teams that are more successful in postseason than they are throughout the regular season, where it's a little bit more time and space availability, skill, puck possession, as opposed to the postseason where everything just gets a little bit tighter, a little bit quicker, and a little bit harder.
Yeah, no, and I agree. Like it's actually kind of you think, I mean, it's a bit of a gamble in a way. Like if you're taking a player that's never once done a specific job and then you're asking him to do that job, which is fine, but then what happens if he can't do it? Right? Like you don't like, as opposed to recruiting the kid that can do it.
Yeah, junior hockey, we're lucky enough we can make a trade. Right, we could do that. We could change our roster up till the trade deadline. College, I know things have changed a little bit with the portal and yada yada yada. But let's face it, you can't, in December 1st, you can't decide that 3 of your guys can't play your way, and now you're going to pluck them and go find other guys. Like you're going to have to wait till the offseason and do some shopping.
Right. Yeah, because I mean it's like that's a whole I don't know if skill's the right word or mindset, but like for a player to be able to flip his role and to mentally, I guess it is a lot of mindset to accept it and embrace it and perform, and going back to performance, to perform it. It's so important because, and again, this is another thing that, has come up, many episodes now, is that most players in this world at one point or another, if you want to keep pursuing the ultimate goal of the National Hockey League, most players are sooner or later going to have to change their role, right? If you have 32 teams or whatever there is in the NHL, you got the top 6, top 4D, start, whatever. Those are the only guys in the world that don't have to change their role. Everybody else, you have to change. You either have to change your role, or you got to play at a level low enough where you can not change your role and be the guy, right? You got to decide which one's more important. Do you want to play at a lower level and be the guy, or do you want to change your role and keep moving up? Either way is fine. You just got to have an honest conversation with yourself and decide what you want to do. But there's no shame in saying, hey, I got to change my role. Because in reality, like I said, there's, if you're a forward, there's 6 guys on every NHL team that don't have to change their role. Everybody else in the world pretty much have to change their role if they want to pursue the NHL, right? Like
I know what you're saying. I just think the word, I wouldn't say change. They have to evolve and develop that role, right? Like, because even like, and nobody really, you don't realize until you're around these guys every day. If you look at the typical NHL 4th line player, whoever it may be, what your favorite team is, that 4th line guy is absolutely disgusting. He can put the puck wherever he wants on the net. He could shoot it a ton. He could skate a ton. He does everything, right? He could do all that. He's still good beyond, but he just has those other elements to his game that separate him from all those people who aren't in the NHL, right? Whether it's size, strength, commitment, fearlessness, toughness, the ability to win faceoffs and battles, like all that's like his role to me. I wouldn't say change, because I don't think it's like you could go from being unbelievably skilled in scoring. Let's say you're a point per game guy in junior hockey, and then you go to college and you're a 0.9 per game guy. Like you don't lose that ability, right? It's just you got to evolve your game now to be able to do some of the other stuff. Maybe be a little bit better in the defensive zone, be a little bit more sound. Figure out a way to carve a role on the PK and by blocking shots and winning faceoffs and being able to back pressure on pucks and reloads. Like I just think they have to evolve their game. I wouldn't say completely change it, just evolve their game where they have those attributes. In addition, because you look at it too, like even those guys, like there's times they're 2-on-1. I'm like, this is in the net. I don't care if it's the 4th line guys. 2-on-1, you give them time and space, a one-timer on a cross seam pass, like it's going in the net, right? Like that's happening. I think same thing when you look at the goaltending, right? Like every backup goal of the NHL is absolutely unbelievable. Right? It's just there's a guy better than them now. There's 32 of them better in the league. Like that's what happens there. So I just think that evolvement, and a lot of that has to do with the maturity, right? You got to be able to mature as it goes and realize that, like, hey, if I can't do this, somebody else is coming, right? And then it's maintaining, like you said, maintaining that throughout and continuing to perform at that level to make sure you're taking care of everyone who's coming after your job, because they're coming every day. Yeah.
And to go a little deeper in this, because obviously, like, I think there's so many players that, like I said, that go through it, that have to go through it. So if evolve is a key word here, would you say other key words are, are embrace, embrace, adapt, like what do you, like, what would you say, like, again, like just best advice for, maybe in terms of the mindset for a player that is going to find himself in that situation this year for whatever level he's at, that, hey, you're not going to be the top line forward. There's going to be other things, would you say that, maybe accountability, like there's other things that are going to come first in your, that the coach is expecting of you. Like, hey, here's these things have to get taken care of. If you get that 2-on-1, by all means, put it in the net, but XYZ needs to get done.
Yeah, I think everything, I mean, to be honest with you, it sounds like you're sitting in my coach's room. Like, it sounds like you've heard the jargon a lot. Like, I think a lot of those words are probably repeated and used week after week, day after day, practice after practice, game after game, right? You have to embrace what you're doing, like you spoke about there, evolve, adapt. You talk about adapting, like in our league, just naturally because of the ladder of development, right? You get guys who have, they got to figure out how to score at this level, right? They got to figure out how to do different things at this level, coming from maybe 16U or 18U hockey, or a different level of junior hockey, when they have to be able to adapt and evolve their role, get better and improve. And I think when you talk about the mental part of it, like they got to be mentally strong. So even for us, like we're going to go through day one of training camp, and like I'm not naive to this, like it's going to be about what those guys are talking about in the locker room after that first practice. Like, you're going to have some guys who are like, oh shit, this is hard. Like, this is a little bit, this is different. Like, I got to figure it out here. I got to skate a little bit harder. I got to stay lower on my strides, finish like whatever it may be on that day. The mental part of it's big, because I'm like, sure as shit, not every day is good. Like, just, it's not going to happen. Like, as coaches, we have bad days, players have bad days, tough days. Like, you got to be able to grow and learn from that and figure out like, hey, what can I do different? What can I do to be better tomorrow? And then some days it's just like, hey, I got to forget today. Like, I played awful. I was dog shit. I was a -4. Like, I got to let this go so that tomorrow, if my number is called again, I'm ready to go. You can't let the one shift become a bad period, become a bad game, become a bad weekend. Now, now your wheels are spinning and you're chasing it, just hoping you're in the dressing room on Monday. Like, and that's how quick it happens. And, without players, not to, kind of buy into the soft generation and what everyone's saying now. It's just, there's so many voices for them now, right? Like, everyone has an agent, an advisor. Like, we have a ton of guys committed to school this year, so I know those guys feel pressure about performing in front of their coaches on a day-to-day basis to make sure they maintain those commitments and those scholarships. They got mom and dad, right, who love them dearly, but are probably their toughest critics. They have girlfriends, they have buddies. Everyone now at social media, like, they're always comparing themselves to the next guy who they know or the next guy who they played with. So that's a big part of the mental warfare on it. Yeah. I think that's such an important part of it, just to be able to be mentally strong. And I know it's easy because it's easier said than done, because I'm not always a positive person myself, but I think maintaining a positive mindset and trying to have a growth mindset looking forward, I think that's so important to success on the ice, and starts with really all your attitude and your mindset off the ice. I think the mental stuff is huge. I love when I hear that, we have guys who have mental performance coaches, away from what we're doing and offering. So I think those guys, they're invested into what they are, right? I think those specialists are so unique and so great at what they do. And, as coaches, I know everyone jokes we wear a lot of hats as therapists and friends and coaches. And
yeah,
for some guys, it's second fathers and role models. But I think those mental performance coaches, obviously, they're specialized in that training. And I think they're such an important asset. I hope one day my league gets to the point, or my program gets to the point, where it's something we can provide our athletes, because that's how much I believe in it. And I've used it myself, and I think it's amazing the results that we had. I had a mental health coach the year we won the cup, and I still tell everyone I think that was my best year I've ever coached because of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's perspective, I think, is everything. I think like the mindset is huge for, for everything. I mean, I always tell people, like, you got to be having fun, right? Like, a lot of these things that we talk about, the grind and all that. And, I spoke with it, me and JT Tarantino, he was on here a few weeks back. Like, we spoke about it. Like if you love this, it's awesome. Like, even when you're getting your ass kicked at training camp, like, it's awesome, right? Like, there's like almost like no better. It's like a love hate type deal. Like, there's no better feeling in the world. Like, like, is there any place you'd rather be than on your hands and knees about to throw up on the ice?
Yeah,
like,
it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember talking to Dominic Bartechko last year, and like I mentioned before, Dom is one of the most talented kids to ever wear a sweater. He broke every imaginable record, and what I'm most proud of is how much he developed as a human being. And I remember talking to Dom earlier in the year and just shooting it back and forth, the breeze, and I don't even know how it came up, to be honest with you. I forget. And I just said, you're so afraid to fall in love with the game. You're afraid to be great. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, you're scared to be great. Like, you don't love the game. He's like, Craigie, like, what are you talking about? I was like, you got to love this game every day. Like, it's not just about the days you got 2-2. It's not just about the days you get the game winning goal in the shootout. Like, you got to fall in love with it on Monday mornings when everyone else is miserable. You got to attack the day. Get to the rink early, get your stretch routine in, get your protein shakes, get an extra lift in, do your skills, do your practice, do your extra video, you got to fall in love with it all together. Just to have a chance to be elite. Just to have a chance. And like Dom has a different challenge. He's an undersized, high skill forward, right? So he has different challenges as he climbs the ladder, but he's got no chance unless he's absolutely in love with the game. And what I saw, when we left in April, May there, like he was a young man who absolutely fell in love with the game. Absolutely fell in love with it. Was putting in the time, was buying into being a great teammate, really came into his own as a leader, and not so much as he was the most vocal, but like he learned about being the best guy on the team, how important that is to the temperature of the team, the temperature of the room, the temperature on the bench. But it's all credit to Dom. He fell in love with the game, and he wasn't scared to be great, right? He finally understood what that meant, and that was going to be sometimes making decisions that were unpopular with his peers, but that was irrelevant because it was what was right for him or what was right for our team even at that moment.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to witness that and be part of it and kind of guide him and nudge him along the way, just let him find his way in terms of that. But for me, like, again, just to revert back to what we started before, that's the stuff that I've been so fortunate to be part of and witness and see these kids grow up, because that's what gives me the confidence, with him going to Mercyhurst and what he's going to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta love it. I mean, if you don't love it, why do it? Right. And like, I
Couldn't
think,
agree more.
I think anything in life, I think if you're doing what you love, I think you're always going to be the best at it, regardless of what it is. Right. It's easier to work harder when you're having fun. It's easier to give it more when you're having fun. Like everything's just better when you're having fun.
Yeah. I don't know how anyone, and not that I'm the most worldly person, and I have a few different experiences in professional life and different jobs, but like, if you don't love what you're doing, or have passion for it, I find it so hard to see or figure out how people have success without passion and love. And I even know for me, I could just put it on a micro level. Like, my best days as a coach aren't just about wins and losses and commitments. They're like my best days where I coach the best and I'm the best version of myself is when I do have a good positive mindset and I go to the rink and I'm passionate, right? And I'm having fun with my staff, with my players, that's the days where I'm at my best. Like, there's days where I'm, maybe I'm stressed off. I'm stressed because of stuff at home, or I'm stressed because of stuff at work, or we're on a losing streak, or, I can't get a kid committed to school, or whatever it may be, right? Like, those are the days I'm grinding. I'm not the best version of myself. And that affects, and I own it a lot because I think how I come in, it affects my staff right away, right? Because they're just immediately around me and we have to interact and collaborate and work together all day. And then obviously it could quickly become, go on to the players, project out to those guys. And that's the last thing I want to do. So I think that's super important. It's something that even me as a 42-year-old guy, I got to stay cognizant of, reminding me like, hey, you got to put a good face on today. You got to have fun. You got to have passion. You got to enjoy what you're doing. Because ultimately that's how, like, if I'm starting there, then everyone else could get there. If I'm dragging ass and I'm negative all day and not having fun and not having passion to what I'm doing, kind of just there to be there, no one's getting better that day, right? They're just, I'm hurting everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. As the leader, like Pat, it's contagious. One way or another.
Yeah. And the players are the same way, right? You see it, like, because they got certain buddies on the team who they're closer with, or if it's one of your top guys, right? Or even if like your backup goalie, right? Those guys will sense it. And they don't want any of their buddies to not be having fun or not be in a good mood and not enjoying it there. So like they're more focused on, picking up their buddy and trying to help him along than maybe they are themselves. And now, just rather than dealing with one person who's negative, you're dealing with one person who's negative and one person who's worried about people who are negative and trying to pick it up. Now you're shifting away from that fun, passion, and purposeful practice that day or workout or video session, whatever it may be. And to me, you're not being the most effective version of yourself at that point.
Yeah. All right. So stemming off of that, here's kind of a random question, just because it's we're talking about it and we're talking about mindset and everything. Where's the line between picking up your buddy who's down and then understanding that, hey, misery loves company, and if there's a guy that's maybe a fifth line guy, fourth, fifth line guy, things aren't going well, and he's just, just motherfucking everything. Like, this team sucks. The coaching stat, I'm scratched again. Where's the line between picking that guy up and, hey, don't get sucked in? He's looking for company. Things aren't going well. He's probably on his way out. He's looking to rally the troops. And hey, this coach is an idiot. This organization sucks. He's rallying the troops. Don't get sucked in.
Yeah, I think the players. I think for them, it's probably a really good test, right? Because to me, that's real. Like what you just described is a real problem, real situation. If not day to day, definitely week to week in every junior hockey locker room throughout the entire country in every single league. And I think the great teams and the great players, they're able to identify those issues and separate. And I think the word that people are afraid of now is you have to be real.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be real, right? And if you're complaining about the coaching sucks, they don't give me a fair chance, I should be on the power play, Johnny should be playing over me, the teammate that's going to go there has to be real with him, right? So that guy may be right. He might just, the coaches may suck and he might be getting shafted, and then that is what it is. But if it's just the kind of that woe is me energy vampire guy in the locker room, I think the realness has to step in. Like the other guy should go over there and rather than falling into it, be like, hey, you want to why you're not playing? Because you play soft and you don't give a shit about anyone other than yourself. You were at -3 the other weekend, and does that not matter to you? We lost because your back check. You didn't back check, finish your back check, and they scored the game winner on a rush in the third period of 8 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
Like you want more. You want to play in the power play. Like go beat somebody out in practice, right? Go dominate it. Go take advantage of an opportunity. Like I think that is when you could have real success as a team because it's not the meetings with the coaches, it's the meetings after the meetings, the players. You want to have great culture. You want to have great teams. Like tell me all you want. Like, oh, the coaching staff, he's great. We can do as good a job as we want. If the meeting after our meeting, where the players are alone, if they don't have the same conviction, buy-in, beliefs, values, core principles, whatever it may be, if they're not talking the same language, you don't got a chance to win. You may win in the regular season. Maybe have a good record. You're not winning when shit gets real. Right? Those meetings after the meetings are everything. And that's when your real teams come to fruition. And like I said, that Robertson Cup team that year for me, they could have coached themselves. They knew exactly what they had to do, different situations, different manpowers, different zones. That team knew everything. I was part of the ride, right? Those are the teams that are special and can really win the big prize is when it's a player-driven culture. The coaches could guide it. You set the foundation. Your players have to drive that, live it, walk it, talk it every single day. And I think what I always like to see is, sure as shit, you're always going to have a guy or two who's towing the line, like you said. Like, are they going to be in? Are they going to be out? Like it's the responsibility of the other guys to get them on board. And then I think great leadership comes where it's like, hey, Craig, can we have a meeting? Yeah, what's up, guys? Like, hey, so-and-so's not buying in. Like, he's just not what we want to do here. Like, attitude's poor, cares about himself. Like he's always shitting on his teammates. Like he doesn't clean up in the locker room. Last guy in, first guy out.
Yeah.
Then it's us as coaches. We have to say, all right, we got to trust our leadership group here, right? We obviously have a pretty mature locker room that's identified so-and-so as a problem. Like now we can either decide, well, we're going to give the guy a meeting with the coaches and say, hey, listen, this has been brought to our attention. Like, if this doesn't straighten out, you're not going to be here. Or do we just cut bait and say, hey, at the end of the day, you're not what we expect in a New Jersey Titan, and we've either traded you or we're gonna release you, and we wish you nothing but the best moving forward. It's not gonna work out here, right? I think those are all interesting dynamics about how that goes about, and even that, like I think there's a difference between being a rat or a kiss ass, whatever the kids say nowadays, right? As opposed to being a really good leader. Like I've tried again, Craigie, with this guy, he won't listen, he doesn't buy in. So I hate to do this to you, but like we've tried, we can't do no more. Like we've exhausted all of our energy on him. And now we're putting more energy into him than we are to ourselves. And, the 19 guys who are on board, or the 21 guys who are on board, like, it's not good for us. He's an energy vampire, sucking the life out of us. And we got to address it. That's my job as a GM then to go have a really, a candid conversation with my staff and then come to a resolution where we figure out what's best for our hockey team first and foremost. And sometimes it works out where that's good for the kid too. And there's other times where I don't care. Like we have to do what's best for our team. And for me, if it's gone to that point, you've probably been a pretty shitty teammate to that point, because I generally try to give kids every opportunity to figure it out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wanted to bring that up just because it's, so many kids are going to experience that this year, whether they realize it or not. They'll run into that guy that, sucking the life out of the locker room and, looking to rally the troops and whatnot. And
like you said, like that, you put it so well, because it was like, he's the misery loves company. He's looking for somebody to jump on his negative bus and, drive with him and be negative. And so, see, I told you, and they get bounced.
yeah, convince him that he's right.
That ain't like, it's just not it. Like the majority usually is going to rule. And like you say it all the time, right? You got your 30% of your locker rooms all on board. Those guys are all great. The bottom 30%, 20%, they're probably all out or halfway out. And then you got the middle of your room. That's the part of it, right? You get those leaders and those really bought in guys to get the middle of the locker room churning the right way, pulling the same rope, going the same direction, whatever your cliche is going to be that year, right? You can quickly bring the other guys about. And if not, then you just cut bait, get rid of them. Like there comes a time where you don't get your return on investment, right? You could have all the meetings in the world. You could have all the culture talks in the world. You could have your leaders take them out to lunch and talk to them, like whatever it may be, whatever. You talk to their agent, you do whatever you want. You've had 4 meetings with the kids. It's just not working out. Just cut bait. Cut bait, move on, bring another guy in, right? And we're lucky enough at the North American League level where you had mentioned there's so many guys who want to be in the league, right? So many guys who do whatever it takes to be in the league, whether it's just because of the status of the league or quite frankly, the financial pressures it takes off their parents. Like so many people want to be in the league that I think we're lucky enough where we have that quote unquote leverage where you don't need to deal with that as much, right? And generally that guy's not bringing much to your team at that point anyway, because he's so negative and so against the team culture and identity.
Yeah, and to anybody that might find themselves in that situation, it's important to make sure you don't become that guy. Like if you're the guy that's in the situation of you're not playing, you're frustrated. Don't be that guy. Because if you're not playing and if you're not playing, if you're a 4th, 5th line guy, like you almost need to be over the top the other way, right? Like top end team guy, because if you're not getting it done on the ice, if you're, like nobody wants a problem from the last line guy.
No,
it's just too easy to get rid of them. It's too easy to replace.
And like you said, and then quite firstly, I've been fortunate to see it on the other end where like, the other guys coming in the room, like, hey, I know so-and-so struggling. He's not really, he doesn't score much for us right now, whatever. Like, he was in my, but listen, Craig, you got to keep him around. We're going to work with him. He's going to figure it out. Like, we'll put the extra time in with him. We got him. He's a great teammate. He cares about this team. He's never a distraction. And you could tell, like that's the guy who's scratched, but he's still loading the bus. He's still unpacking the bus. He's asking the equipment manager if he needs a hand with anything. Like, he's just generally positive and he gets it. Like those kids are incredible. Those kids are absolutely incredible because it's a tough spot to be in. And then you really see it when you give that guy an opportunity, right? He gets into the lineup 2 games in a row on a weekend. Somebody's hurt, whatever it may be, whatever circumstance. He gets in the lineup Friday and Saturday night, and he goes out there, and Friday night he has 2 big block shots. The bench goes bananas for the kid, right? Bananas. Oh, sure. Never mind if he gets a point or makes a really impactful play, then you just get the boys just pick it up for him, right? And who he is. Or he has a tough one. He gets blown up. He chips a puck in at the red, but he gets finished on. He gets buried. The boys are all picking him up on the bench, and then, everyone's seeking out that D to get retributions on him because they hit, an unbelievable teammate. It's funny how that it could go either way, right? It could really go either way with that type of guy in that type of role. And I've been lucky or unlucky enough to see both sides of that, and you deal with those people differently, obviously.
Yeah. And it's like we said, like the positivity, like if you're being positive and everything, like good things come back, right? Like if you're that guy that's positive and doing all the right things, people tend to treat you more, in a positive manner.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you too, like, so, we spoke about, okay, biggest advice for a kid trying to break into the league right now. And then almost like stage 2, biggest advice for a kid that broke into the league, now is trying to stay in the league. Biggest advice for a kid that to move on to that Division I NCAA level, right? What's the biggest thing that you would say, is going to separate a kid from being a North American League player to somebody that's just, hey, you're going on to bigger and better things?
Yeah, I think it's funny. This will be like the old guard in me, but I think now, because of how competitive is at that Division I roster level, right? And I know there's talks of some changes in roster limits here and whatnot moving forward, but just as we currently state, it's been so much easier to help kids get Division I opportunities who have good academics. right? I know it sounds a little bit oxymoron and crazy and oldish, but like it's much easier when I could pick up the phone and speak to 58 of the 64, 65, whatever it is, Division I schools right now, as opposed to guys who are low academically. And they can only get into 28 of the schools, right? Something like that. It also helps so much now with stackable money where I could, maybe a kid gets an opportunity because he's getting academic money from a school, right? And a little bit of athletic money to help that package get to be where it's got to go. And then he's competing with that roster spot for a kid who can't get that academic money, that academic package. So I would say the grades are super important. I think it can only help you. Obviously, it never helps you, never hurts you. And I look at it with some of our guys, like Logan was on before. Logan's going to Harvard, right? We have kids going to West Point. We have kids going to Princeton. Kids going to Dartmouth. Like,
right.
I think that helps out so much with the academics where it opens those doors for those kids. And if they didn't have those academics, they're probably limited, right? Maybe. The other thing I would tell you is like, just be the best version of yourself. And at the end of the day, like I hate to put it like this as a coach, but like as we take a lot of pride, and I tell the kids, it's my job to get the pretty girls to the dance. You got to get them on the dance floor and dance with them, right? So we'll advocate for you. We'll get eyes for you, whether a guy's in the building watching you, guys on film. We take a lot of pride in New Jersey. We'll bring a lot of schools down to our practices. I think it's a unique view at the kids, especially if it's like the day before a game, they can watch a practice. Maybe they can get a meal with the kid, get to know them a little bit better, and then they come back for a game the next night. You got to perform, right? You got to perform. And there's no excuses. Like, it's not about your line mates at that point. It's not about you didn't feel good. Like, you gotta perform. And I don't mean that vaguely. What I mean it vaguely is like, just be who you are, right? And be the best version of who you are and what got that person in the building. Whatever that needs may be for that coach. Maybe they need a left shot guy who can play on the power play. Maybe they need a right-handed centerman who's a really good 200-foot player. Maybe they need a playmaker, a pure goals, whatever the conversations have been that entice that school that much to get to that platform with you as a player. Be the best version of yourself that day. You're playing on the top six. Like, make sure you have all those staples to your game that we preach in New Jersey. You're reloading above pucks. You're having a good stick. You're touching puck at all times in the D zone. You're blocking shots in the D zone, winning faceoffs. Have those staples to your game, those details that we feel are critical to your performance day to day, right? And then when you get a chance to pop one. When you get a chance to blow somebody up in the neutral zone and be hard and heavy, do that. If you're a big, steady, stay-at-home defender, play mean in front of the net, play mean along the walls below the goal line. And to me, honestly, like if that's who you are, the game should get pretty rough and pretty nasty, and you should be well liked. If the gloves are going to get dropped, make sure you handle yourself appropriately. Like, again, bring those details and attributes to the game that you feel are important to who you are and what your value is to that college coach moving forward in his program. Because these guys, the more I've seen it, the more it's like they're not looking for reasons to commit the kid. They're looking for reasons like why they shouldn't almost. Right? Like, oh, he was good the one game, but the other 3 games he was kind of invisible, or his stick details in the D zone are pretty poor. Like, stick's always in the air, not in passing lanes, doesn't touch puck. Every time he arrives on a battle, his stick's in the air or on the hips. Like, I think all those things, they're looking at those and trying to find reasons why they shouldn't, as opposed to those reasons why. And that's what I've seen from it. Maybe it's a process they go through, different schools, different guys. But I think have those elite attributes and details. We're always talking about details and habits in New Jersey. I think those got to be core fundamentals to who and what you are as a player, and then you build from there. But I think have all those and what makes you as a player so effective. And then obviously, like I said, when you have an opportunity to shine and make plays, right, whether it's a goal, assist, a breakout, it could be a great penalty kill. You block 3 shots and you win a board battle to win a defensive blue line. Whatever it is, when the time's to shine, make sure you're ready to perform.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love that you said, like, be who you are. Like, I stress that to players all the time. Like, people that are coming to watch you, they like you for you.
They're
That's
coming
why
for
they're
that
there.
reason. Correct.
So give them you, give them, to your point, give them the best you that you can. Don't, start trying to do something else. Like, they're coming to watch you. Give them the best you.
Like, what I always like too is, like, whether it's a friend of mine or a college guy who from been around the game for a while, like, those guys will sniff out the frauds. Like, they sniff all that stuff out, right? Like, they know who you are. Like you said, before a school comes to see you, unless it's by chance where it's their first viewing of you or whatever, they pretty much have an idea. Like, hey, Craigie, I'm coming to watch Logan Rinkowski. I'm coming to watch whoever it may be. They know who that kid is. That's why they're coming, right? Don't change that. Like, you can compliment it, evolve it, be great at it. That's fine. But don't become something you're completely not, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're coming to watch you because you've been scoring, it doesn't mean the first time you get two-handed, you got to turn around and drop the gloves with the guy to show you're tough. Like, that's not tough.
Right.
That's stupid. Like, you want to be tough, block shots, finish hits, back pressure, like do some stuff that not everybody does because it's really hard work. That you can play tough that way, play hard that way, but don't be an idiot. Just like, oh, this guy's to see me. Oh, he saw me full fight. I'm really tough. No, you're not.
Well, and I think the key word there, because I was thinking it was idiot, right? Like, if you're proving how tough you are in front of the college coach, and they look and that's your first fight in 3 years. It's like, okay, well, what just caused him to just lose his shit? Like, he's not a fighter. He doesn't do that. If he had 15 fights, okay, cool, normal, right? But what just happened that made him just tick and go off and just completely lose his head off of everything,
Yeah, so, and never mind the 15 minutes of ice you're going to miss as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's
makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's important to just be yourself. And the other talking point I always tell people, like, around that is you're you regardless of what happens around you. Like, maybe things don't go your way. Maybe you get cut from a team 3 weeks into the season this year. Okay, you're not instantly bad at hockey. You're still you, right? Like, just live. I always tell guys, don't get too high, don't get too low.
No, you got to maintain that. And sometimes there's circumstances that just they're out of your control, right? And especially the junior hockey, there's so many different varying circumstances with roster construction. That's probably the best way I could put it.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's not just because everyone, I'm sure when they get cut, like same thing with us, they'll be like, oh, why did I get cut? You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I was playing good. That's fine, but maybe we're bringing in a guy who he's better. He's better than you, and that happens. That's okay. Like, he brings different attributes to the team that you don't.
Yeah, and you're you. If you're truly a North American League player and you got cut, but you're truly a North American League player, you'll probably catch on somewhere else. You're you.
100%. And there's so many different styles of play within our league, and like, you may just be better catered to play for somebody else. Like, that may be a great change of pace from you, right? Like, I look at it with us, like, we had Jake LaRusso. We moved Jake LaRusso, right? And he ended up as a 20-year-old, and Jake was tremendously talented. It was just he went to Northeast, and it clicked for him, right? And he was one of the most lethal goal scorers in the league that year. He was unbelievable there. And that's been we've had other guys who we move elsewhere, and they play really well. And we've brought in other guys from other areas where maybe they weren't great, and they come here, and it works out. It's a great fit for them.
Yeah, it clicks.
That happens. That's okay.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why just got to play, have fun, and work your ass off. Determine. I always tell people, decide what your goals are, and then just make sure your actions 100%. Match your words.
100%.
Make sure your actions match your words. And but yeah, we're a little over an hour now. A couple of things before. Yeah, these things fly by.
Oh, it's all good. I just wanted to take my pods out because they were starting to die.
Yeah, no, all good. Yeah, a couple of things before we wrap up here, guys. For Performance Pass, the point unlock code for this episode tonight is Performance Pass, all lowercase, 2 words. You go to your Performance Pass, unlock the points. You'll be able to claim them. That'll stay there for the rest of the night. It'll get shut off tomorrow, sometime tomorrow. But for the rest of the night, you can claim your points for watching this episode live on the Performance Pass. If you're not on Performance Pass, you can check it out. Go to swanhockey.io. You'll be able to access it. There's a lot of information on swanhockey.com explaining what it is and how to and everything. But basically, it's just a way to try to give people more for doing the things you already do. Like case in point, watching a live podcast. So we're able to give you guys reward points. That could be, you're able to claim different rewards and everything with them, part of the Web3 experience. And so, yeah, Performance Pass is the point unlock code for tonight's episode. For Scout Central, if you want to connect with Craig's tag, his player tag for Scout Central is Craig D Titans. Add that to your profiles. Craig will be able to search that. He'll have a list of everybody that he's connected with through this podcast that has taken an interest in him. And, again, a lot of this stuff is an attempt to connect everybody and knock down a lot of the walls that exist in this game. And, even like this podcast, being able to, get, get firsthand, advice and, sit down and talk with Craig, for this hour and interact and everything, which Craig, can't thank you enough for doing this.
I love it.
Honored to have you on. All great stuff. I hope a lot of guys,
I wish we had more questions in the chat. I like interacting.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jess Ruffalo, great episode. Thank you for all the info. And let's go Titans. So I think that's Jess, one of Titans NA3 this year, right? Yeah, it should be
that's awesome.
Yeah, her son should be playing with Andre.
Love it.
With the NA3 team. Yeah, no, this was awesome. Yeah, Craig, anything you want to leave off with?
No, I appreciate it. I love it. I'm passionate about the game. So I always say hockey's been really good to me. I've been blessed to get to this platform and be around the people I am, both from a coaching standpoint and players that I get to work with every day. I consider myself lucky. I tell everyone day, I grew up as a kid who loved hockey, and still to me, getting to go to a hockey rink every day is a career and a job, and provide for my family. To me, sometimes I got to pinch myself because it is somewhat surreal. And I say the same thing about the North American League. I think for me, it's been great to be part of it. It's been an honor to be part of the student athletes I get to work with on a day-to-day basis. They just continue to amaze me, and to see where they go. And now we've been doing it long enough. I think Kyle put together some stats for me the other day. I think we have close to 20 guys playing pro hockey since I've been in New Jersey, and
that's awesome.
I think it's 60 some odd Division I kids. So it's been cool to be part of that and see the guys. And like I said, there's even so many guys who play at Division III level and pursue greatness, in businesses outside of the hockey world, and they're so successful. So that's been great. And, even getting an opportunity to do stuff like this, I'm passionate about the sport and what we do. And I want to see it continue to grow and progress. And I want to see our program in New Jersey continue to grow and progress and get better and better, and continue to see where we can push this thing to. Because I do, again, our standards aren't something we just talk about. I want to become the best destination for junior hockey in North America, and I'll continue to chase that as long as I possibly can. And I won't be satisfied till our programs gets that point. So I'll probably never be satisfied, but that's okay. That's what keeps it fun and keeps me full of passion. So I appreciate you having me on. I love it. I'm willing to talk hockey and the world of hockey, good, bad, and ugly, at any point. So appreciate it big time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do it again. If anybody has any last minute questions or comments, throw them up now. If you found this helpful, give the video a thumbs up, like it. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we do the live podcast. But yeah, any last minute questions or comments or anything, throw them up now. And maybe we'll have to do this again, Craig. This is awesome. It's a lot of fun, and
I love it. I love doing it during the season. It probably could get a little bit more animated just because hopefully we're playing well. But if we're not playing well, that could be fun too to poke me and see how mad I can get. But no, I love it. I'm up for anything here. I always love talking hockey and talking hockey with good people.
Yeah, no, I love it. And anybody, I highly recommend you go to a game. Whether it's in New Jersey or if you want to play in the league, highly recommend if you don't break the bank to do it, but highly recommend you go watch a game this year in person, see what the league is actually like. If you can get to a game in November, December, January, or towards the end of the season,
it's
what
real.
it's actually like.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, all right, awesome guys. Thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight, Craig. Thanks again so much. Really appreciate it. And everybody have a great night, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Yeah. Thanks, Craig. Have a great night.
You too.